Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another race analysis. This time I am coming to you from the American Cycling Championship. We were out in Riverside, California at Adams Motorsports Park, and this is a super cool course, pretty technical, 5 corners. It's on a high-speed go-kart track, so there's two 25-degree bank corners, which were pretty sick. You could take them at insane speeds. In addition, there's like 2 chicane sections on top of the 5 corners. One really nasty left-hander that you will see. Everybody was taking that a little bit gingerly. We had seen a lot of skin left on the pavement already. So the open men's decided that, we were trying not to be part of that. Although I'm pretty sure there were probably a couple crashes in this race too. The big portion of this race takes place in probably the first 5 laps, and you're going to see why. Basically, what had been happening all day long is small fields of 20 people, so they were just getting blown wide open right out the gate, and then there were small reduced groups pedaling to the line. So without further ado, let's get this thing rocking and rolling. So right out of the gates, basically, it's myself and Zach, my teammate with the SDBC, and we're riding against these 3 flex riders, and then basically the rest of the field is made up of solo riders. So right out the gate, you see this flex dude takes off. They're in the blue and purple little pinkish kit. Takes off the front, is just drilling it, and there's another flex guy behind him, so that means I have to do the effort because I can't let this get away, especially with what I've been seeing all day long, which is basically people coming out the gate, drilling it, and then getting away never to be seen again. I'm not really familiar with these riders. It's an open class category, so, it's basically Cat 3 through 5. These guys could be, solo TT specialists. I have no idea. So anyway, I see the flex rider go off the front. I'm like, okay, he might just ride away from this thing. I'm at least going to mark the second rider, and then the solo rider here, who I had heard through the grapevine was pretty quick. One thing I'm going to note, though, is that the second flex rider is definitely not going to chase his teammate. I realize he's sort of letting this gap open up between him and that solo rider. I decide, okay, I got to jump across to this and make sure that doesn't go anywhere. Looking behind me, though, you can see we've already got a pretty good gap on the field, and this first lap, actually, I think I did 403 watts or something ridiculous right out of the gate. So we're just pedaling here. We're bringing back that flex rider who has been off the front solo for a lap now. If you look at my rear cam, you can see that basically the entire field is blown wide open. Luckily here, Zach has just come across, my teammate, and he has patched it up. He's sitting on my wheel. We have another flex rider in the group, so if we do end up catching the flex rider that's off the front, it's likely that, Zach can counter. At least this is what I'm thinking in my head. Or maybe that flex rider counters himself, but that's fine because Zach is in a good position to go ahead and cover that. I've been sitting here at second wheel, not doing quite as much work as the guy on the front that's been chasing and doing majority of the work, but still on a super technical course like this, coming out of every corner, you can see I'm doing 800 watts. So I just tell Zach, I'm like, all right, go. I realized the flex rider had a little bit of a gap behind us, so I'm thinking, okay, cool. So maybe Zach and I can get in rotation here with the solo rider. But I believe that's Mo behind me, and he comes across too and keeps it pretty tight. I yell at Zach here. I'm like, it's blown apart. Go, go, rip. And then I tell this solo rider to get into rotation with us. That way, we can establish, a well-functioning brake. And so my thoughts is that, if we get into a nice rotation here, we're going to bring back that flex rider no problem. And then, maybe pick him up as well. He'll be part of our 5-6-man break. If you look at the back, you see another rider just jumped across. So now we're rolling 6 deep as soon as we bring this flex rider back onto our wheels. So the wind looks like it has finally done its job. As you can see, it's a nasty crosswind right here on this straight, but that means it was a nasty headwind coming down the straight that leads into this one, going through the chicane section. So just pedaling against that all day long solo is really nasty. But we are bringing the flex rider back here, and Zach is just about to overtake him. And when Zach does overtake him, I'm like, dude, I am going to let you ride away. Either that or, this rider is going to do what he did and jump right on Zach's wheel. So I was kind of letting a gap open up there. I was just basically going to let Zach do the solo TT to victory in this situation. Not 100% sure he could have, but hey, we're a few minutes into the race here. Might as well roll the dice and see what happens. And if I can let him get a gap solo and then, just cover anything if other riders try and chase him back, then that's what I'm going to do. So I sort of just kind of let Zach and this Flex Rider cruise here, move to the right. I put in a little effort, but I'm not dedicated to closing this gap and keeping things tight. So I look back, see that I got a couple riders on my wheel, and so I just sort of drop like zone 2, not even pedaling, soft pedaling, letting these 2 riders go because I'm not going to chase it. The other Flex Rider's not going to chase it. Once I realized, though, that the rest of our brake mates here, that we now have an established brake, once I realized the rest of the brake mates here actually want to come through and patch it up and keep things smooth and rolling, I'm like, all right, cool. So I'll jump on the back of this thing and just hang out for a little bit. The problem with that idea is that you just heard the preem bell, and one thing I gotta note here is when there's a coffee on the line, Zach ain't gonna not get the coffee. So we end up, it's a preem lap, and now everybody's kind of drilling it. I think, at this point, Zach was just like, all right, we're going to keep this break and keep this separation from the field. You can see the chase group is back there. There's a little bit of an organized group of, I think, 4 or 5 riders behind us. They're a ways back. You can't see in my rear cam, but they were coming down the final straight after we had just come through the chicane section. So Zach is drilling it on the front here and putting me in a ton of pain. You can see my heart rate is just like pegged at this point. I think my max I've hit in a race this season is like 184. So if that tells you where I'm at, it's pretty nasty already. The effort's pretty ridiculous. So I see a gap start opening up, and I'm just doing the pain dangle. I'm like, oh my god, this hurts. I had done basically 2 400-watt laps. I'm not excited about this effort at all. But I do know that I can probably patch it up with my lines through this chicane section. I make up quite a bit of ground here on pretty much every lap. So I maintain my speed there. I come out of this corner. I'm like, okay, cool. I should be able to patch it up, no problem. But then Zach sprints for the preem and does like over 1,000 watts. And I'm like, dude, I do not have that juice. So the gap is just getting bigger and bigger here, and I'm like, oh no, I'm going to be in no man's land doing the solo TT situation, which is just so brutal. I wanted nothing to do with that, especially on this course with the nasty headwind, but man, I'm just dying. I'm doing like 400 watts. I know I can't sustain it for, as long as I need to get back on this group. And like I said, more and more separation is happening here, and this is basically where I get dropped from the break. These guys are like, see you later, have a fun race, we'll catch you at the finish line. Alright, so fast forward like 15 minutes from where we were at when I got dropped from the break, and I realized that this rider in front of me is one of the Flex riders that was in the 5-man break. And so that's good news for me. I've been riding solo TTing 6th place all day long, and I'm like, okay, cool, here's the 5th place guy. Maybe we can patch this thing up. We can work together as a 2-rider group. There was a, semi-organized chase group that I had been holding off for 15 minutes, and I was getting pretty freaking tired of doing thresholds, so I need a little bit of rest. And rotating with this guy, I'm thinking, all right, cool. This is maybe where I get some rest. So I actually just sneak up on his wheel here, and I don't make any indication that I'm there. I'm hoping actually that he doesn't realize I'm there, so I can just sort of hang out on the wheel for as long as possible. You can see I've dropped like 150 watts here, which is like the first break I've actually had basically the entire race, and we're like almost 25 minutes into this thing out of 40 minutes. So we're over halfway into the race, and I've just basically been riding like threshold or above the entire time. So I am dead, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna hide back here. Hopefully he doesn't realize I'm here, but the big thing is we do need to work together because there was an organized group, like I said, of 4 guys or so that I kept seeing. And the last thing I wanted to happen was do all this work for the entirety of the race and then get caught by like a 4-man chase group, a lap or 2 away from the line. So I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm going to work with this guy, and we're going to make it to the line and lock up 5th and 6th. So, as you can see, I am on the front here. Me and this other rider have been settled into a pretty good rotation, just hanging out, at like threshold, not attacking each other, and then, rotating pretty nicely, actually, for majority of the race. And so we're in 5th and 6th. We come out of this corner, and this man just drills it, and I'm like, all right. So I do 700, 800 watts, and then realize he's still drilling it, and I'm like, dang. I feel like I'm getting attacked right here, but I'm really not trying to go that hard. I just want to keep it smooth and fast and stay away from the guys behind. What I did realize is that the chase group had sort of blown up, and I was like, I'm gonna keep this steady right at threshold. I'm doing like 250 to 350 in between there, and I'm just gonna stay at that and keep taking good lines through the corners. Just basically, keep drilling it through the chicanes, keep my pedal stroke smooth, and keep my speed up through all these corners. So he sort of starts to gap me here, but I'm not gonna go full VO2 or anything to get on the wheel. I realized that, this weird surgy riding when you're out here solo and can take pretty much any line is just not good for me. I had been off the bike for 2 weeks leading up to this, so my top end was just not what it should be for this kind of race. And so I was trying to keep it more smooth, steady effort. Felt like, maybe he was trying to bump it up coming out of the corners and sort of ride, I guess, like we would if we were in the field and it was a little bit surgy. But like I said, you can see my wattage profile had been pretty steady for pretty much that whole lap. But I'm getting gaps, so I'm a little bit concerned. But as long as I keep him within sight, I'm not too worried that I can't reel him in the last couple of laps when I just basically empty the tank. So jump ahead here, and what you're going to see happening is the brake is actually lapping some of the back of the field. Myself and the 5th place guy are also lapping some of the back of the field, and the brake has just lapped us. So stuff's getting pretty confusing here. I realize this flex rider in front of me is actually the 5th place rider. And like I said, I'm sitting 6th still. We are lapping these riders, but I realize this is the guy. I need to be on his wheel. We've been lapped by the brake. That's long gone. The chase is not a worry anymore. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to come around him and put in a good dig. Maybe he doesn't realize that I'm the guy he needs to be riding with. If he does, that's fine. Maybe we can get back into this rotation and work together. If he doesn't realize it, then maybe I can just sort of disappear and keep riding at, tempo threshold like I was and continue to establish a gap. So at one point, I do start chatting with him. I'm like, hey man, here's the deal. It's you and I rotating for 5th and 6th. We might as well help each other out and make getting to the line a lot easier here. I'm willing to rotate and then just drag race for it. I personally think, I've got a decent sprint at the end of this thing just because I've been riding pretty steady the whole time and not surging big surges out of the corners. But, I'm willing to chance that than, have us riding solo or independently, to the line. So, if we can agree not to attack each other for a while, maybe we can keep the speed up, ride smooth, and make this thing a little bit easier on the both of us. There's no chase group even in sight. We're chilling. Just drive it steady tempo. Let's take it to the end. We're not catching that lead group. Just rotate tempo pulls. Then we'll drag race it. So as you heard there, that was sort of the conversation I was talking about. And so we're coming down the back straight here, and I'm, fully anticipating us just rotating through, taking nice and easy pulls, and then, rotate to the line. So he sits up. I'm like, okay, it's time for me to pull through. I do, 330 coming through, no big deal. And then I don't realize that I'm actually gapping this guy. So now I'm sitting in 5th position. I get a pretty good gap here. I'm just pedaling, trying to pull really. About to come around another lapped rider here, and I look back and realize that I have this gap, and I'm like, okay, I guess now I'm just going to ride it and lock up 5th, or at least try to. So that's exactly what I do. I'm like, all right, 5-minute effort at VO2 here, or whatever. So I'm like, 350, 400 watts, that's the name of the game. Let's see how hard I can go for the next however long to maintain this gap and hopefully bring home 5th. So we've jumped ahead here. This is the last lap. As you can see, I'm drilling it. I'm like, you know what? It's the last lap. I'm going to go hard just like I would in any other situation in the last lap. It's, a good idea for any other upcoming races, build some fitness. So might as well drill it. So as you can see, I'm coming through the last quick little chicane here, and then I'll be making the final turn in the last corner. So the brake is finished actually. And I'm sprinting for 5th like a hardo. Check me out. 850 watts is all I've got left in the tank, which is absurdly low for max power. But anyway, Zach has already won the race. A teammate gets another dub. The man is just too strong for anyone, as usual. And so I'm just like, all right, locked up 5th place. It was a good threshold workout. Power numbers were pretty ridiculous for me, but it was good, you know, after 2 weeks being off the bike to come back and drill it on a pretty technical course. I was able to hold off the chase group, which actually I was pretty excited about. Nobody caught me, and that was big. And then I did catch the rider who was popped out of the break with me. I managed to track him down and pass him and keep riding steady and smooth around the course. And, you know, took home 5th. Nothing too crazy in a small field, but man, this course was so fun. I'm really excited for some more track racing like this. If we get the opportunity, I'm super excited for it. So anyway, if you're not yet subscribed to my channel, you should be subscribed to my channel, or I'm going to target all your Strava KOMs. So have a good day. See you guys soon.